very sweet for me to come back to this place and many old friends. Some people, we did like 10,000 of these Sunday programs together, and we still keep coming. That's a secret for those who are new. Today I'm going to talk about patience. One of my challenges as a teacher is to try to talk about one thing, just one topic, and not just throw everything in the blender. So I'm undertaking that challenge. There'll be things in the blender, but talk about patience. And open with a poem by Britt Posmer. This poem is called This. This. After all the fight has gone out, there is this, the invitation to extraordinary tenderness. After all the fight has gone out, there is this. So patience is known as one of the perfections, and I believe at least in Sanskrit the word is kshanti, yeah, and sometimes it's translated as endurance. So I'm going to be talking about both aspects of this. One way to think about this is Dharma is very concerned with helping us not do things that will make big problems for us into the future. Yeah? For example, think of a crime of passion. Somebody who has never learned to hold their reactivity, they go home and they see something and life is turned upside down because they could not restrain what rose up in them. So thinking of it like that, patience is like a dam wall. You learn to, through your intent, have a dam that holds back an unskillful thought. It does get that subtle. An unskillful word or an unskillful action, because it only takes one thought, one word, one action to mess your life up, to mess someone else's life up. And if there's no dam, there might be a lot flowing out that is making suffering. So patience has that element. It also has the element of consenting to our own experience. This is one of the things we're training in as we sit in meditation. It's easy to think, this is a mental thing that I'm doing. I'm going to do something really cool and exotic, and somebody said it'll make me 10% happier if I do this thing with my mind, and all will be well. It's much, much deeper than that, and it's actually much more intimate than that. Patience, in one sense, means can I consent to exactly what I am in this moment? Can I feel what is without splitting off because I think it's bad or it shouldn't be happening? Can I tolerate my own experience? Now that's very good. And if you do sitting meditation regularly, you will train in this tolerating of your own experience, and it will bless your life. It's a good thing. But from a higher spiritual point of view, it's best if there's no patience. It would be better if you weren't patient. Here's why. Being patient means you're in opposition to something. For example, you might think you are calmly enduring this irritating being and being so very patient. But what you mean is you're not really enduring your own reactivity. The irritation doesn't lie in the person. Think about that. When you encounter somebody you don't like, they bother you. What's really hard is actually not the way they talk or the thing they say or how they dress. What's really hard, what's really causing the friction is something that's arising in you that you don't want to be with. You want to get away from your own reactivity. The person just happened to reveal the truth to you. So it's best if there's no patience, because if we're being patient, that means you are waiting for something to be over. If one was truly patient, they would never know that. You would probably not know that. Because there's no waiting for something to be over. There's no need for the dam, because there's not a division made between inside and outside. What I should and shouldn't be experienced. Subject and object. It's just a seamless texture of life. And if I don't have an argument with it, if I consent to feel, I don't even need to be patient. Very easy for me to mouth these things off, but when I go back home to the humidity, it's a whole nother issue. The instant everything culture is culturing us. Patience may be an even more important virtue to work with as modern people than our Dharma ancestors. There were no drive-thrus, as far as I know. There were definitely no microwaves. There was no Amazon. I heard that Amazon has a technology where they can dematerialize your book and rematerialize it on your doorstep. Kidding. But somewhere they were working with drones. Isn't that creepy? A drone would take your toothbrush from the factory 20 miles away and drop it off on your doorstep right after you order it. It's awesome. I love it. It's not good for the heart because it conditions you to impatience, to instant culture. That comes into our Dharma practice. Quick fix. Everything on demand. We have so many options that most people's lifestyle is such that if the thing at hand doesn't please me, I'll just get another thing. And we relate to everything as things. The thing on my phone that I might or might not go on a date with. The thing I might attend or might not attend because there's some other thing going on. So many things. So many choices. And because you can't actually manipulate life, inconvenience is a way the universe likes to show up. Disruption of steady routine. Everyone's in a rush. Everyone's hurrying around because we were told that we should get things right away. It shouldn't take that long. But we're in a hurry. All these things are supposed to save time, and now I'm in a hurry to fill that time. And so the pace of the culture kind of infects our nervous systems with hurriedness. I have a friend of mine who lives in a sleepy town in the South, and he went to New York City recently, and he just said, "Oh my God, it took me a week to detox from the pace and the energy of New York City." It's not that you couldn't be at ease at New York City, but just as an example. So, as Dharma students, we have to look at patience and impatience. We have to look at our impatience. What is this? What kind of demand am I making on the universe? Where is this coming from? The good thing is that the Dharma will give you enough confirmation that there's something good here, even if you approach it in a hurried, demanding way, but it'll also give you lots of confirmation that if you're impatient with it, if you make demands on it, if you try to wring the good stuff out of it before it's ready to come forward, it'll give you lots of feedback that that's not going to work. Right? Your own body. The tension in your own body as you meditate might be saying, nope. Slow down, bucko. Soften. This isn't about leaping into some future moment of fruition of your practice. The paradox is, in some way, you do slow down. You do let go of the hurry, and whether you know it or not, you're tasting something of the fruition. So Zen practice is a long-term endeavor. Yeah. Dharma is a long-term endeavor. We are, at least as far as I know, the first culture who thinks about Dharma practice in terms of a single lifetime. Maybe that puts an undue stress in our system. We think, I really only have 30 years. And so I've got to get this done. I might miss the chance. Maybe it's true. You probably can't take on someone else's cosmology. So there might be an urgency. That urgency itself, in a way, impatience itself is love, because impatience is saying, I really value my life. I love my life. So I don't want to have to talk to this irritating person. I want to get to the parts of my life I love more. Or I really love my life. I want to taste its depths. So I don't want to be in this particular texture that feels like it's hemming me in. So Dharma practice is a long-term endeavor. In a way, it's wrong to say even that, because then we think of it as a tool. Like, okay, I've got this tool. I'm going to keep banging on this thing, and I'm going to just keep banging. They said just keep banging. I'm going to keep banging. Eventually something's going to break, and it will be really good. There's some elements of the practice that are like that. Your steadiness of effort. I was using a metaphor of a drill with some people, and I didn't like it. I found it distasteful because a drill to me is kind of violent. Like I have fears about what someone could do with a drill, like a dentist, for example. But with your meditation, you feel like you encounter thickness of texture. Your mind is thick, the moment is thick, the obstacle seems thick. And impatient mind says, well, this ain't working. I'm just going to sit here and daydream. I'm just going to wait till this is over. But devoted practice is like a drill. You put it against the wall, and you hit some resistance. And if you were to give up right then, you'd never get the picture hung. You lean on the drill a little bit. You realize if you push too hard, you might break the bit. You might damage the drill. But if you put just the right amount of pressure, it goes through. Now, I don't know if this is something you can or can't do, what I'm going to say now. But it is a great empowerment if we can commit to realizing ourselves, or to however you conceive of the fruit of practice, despite how long it takes. Just throw away the timeline, let it go. If you can say to yourself, I'm in this, whether it's 10 years, 20 years, or lifetimes. The longing that's in me and what that is coming from, I'm going to see that through, and it doesn't matter how long it takes. It's like throwing away the map to the exit. It took me actually a long time to not sit during our intensive meditation retreats and fantasize about the life that might be a little bit more interesting. Like, yeah, well, I could do this in Bali. I could. Yeah. Or, well, they said I'm already essentially Buddha nature, so I'm just going to wait till like someone says some word and suddenly it's all over. I'm enlightened. Mind has its escape fantasies until a certain point. Until a certain point where you're touched by the Dharma and you touch the Dharma and you realize, I don't really have a choice. I'm still impatient with it, but I don't really have a choice. It's kind of like a moving walkway at the airport where you thought you were going to go faster by stepping on it, but the lady in front of you was really just taking up the whole row with her luggage. You're about to miss your plane. You're like, well, I'm on the walkway, so might as well let it carry me. It's kind of like that. So when I was younger, in training in my teens and 20s, I read Dogen Zenji, who's an interesting example. So he's the founder of our particular lineage. And he had grown up in Buddhism. He had done like 10 years of very intensive training. And he was honest enough with himself to say, I'm actually not totally free. And so he went to another country, which was really weird in those days, really unusual, dangerous, to see if he could find somebody who could relieve him of that sense of, I'm actually not really free yet. His teachers already said, you're free. Here's a certification and a robe, you could go teach. But he was like, no, I'm actually not. So this person, I read when I was younger, saying, the way of Dharma is vast and profound. Don't be hasty or belittle it. More explicitly, he said, don't belittle the vastness of spiritual life by being hasty. So I thought, totally, I'll give it 6 months. True story. So I think my function, when I'm in teacher function, is to speak to the part of all of us that most deeply wants to practice. And that's what I am trying to do. To practice with this, I'm all in, capital Y, yes, in one dimension is to build skills. You have to build skills that you may not have had before. For example, culturally, there's almost nowhere that the skill of concentration is taught. Almost nowhere. In fact, the opposite. We are handing cell phones to children, teaching them the skill of being distracted. So we have to have patience with skill building. Dharma is not the method. It's not, I'm going to become just such a great concentrator. It's a much more intimate stance of the heart that truly can't really be taught. But the skills are an important part of that. So patience with skill building is hard for most people. Yeah, especially if you're sitting in a retreat, it's not the comfort that you're used to. You're putting in all this time. You want it to work. You want to know that it's going somewhere, don't you? There's some part of the mind that wants to know it's going somewhere, which is its own partially false belief that you need to go somewhere. But we do need to build the skills. So part of patience is, it's a kind of, let's call it, it's a kind of humility. Why do I believe after 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, I should be able to concentrate well? Why should I? Who said? Who said I shouldn't have to, like anybody who undertakes an art or a discipline, go through the training, undertake the discipline, do the work, the blood, sweat, and tears of building the skill. Nothing beautiful is made without that. And nobody wants to live in a 3D printed house, I don't think. So the art, in a way, is to relate to it impersonally. Why should I be good at this? I'm just building a skill. You have your object, you have your attention. A moment of concentration means these are touching. This wants to move around, you keep touching, 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 touching. Wanders away, touching. You keep doing that. It's not a matter of I'm a great concentrator or I'm a bad whatever or I'm super good at spirituality. It's you're just doing the work. It is actually an exquisitely simple output of intention. This went here, oh, now it's back here. And then eventually, okay. If you're a good person, you can build a skill. If you're a mixed person like me, you build a skill. It has nothing to do with who you are, in a sense. Keeping the precepts helps. Your mind is not disturbed as much. So patience. You're developing a skill. Why should you know how to play the guitar in the first year or two that you pick it up? Dharma is not any different. What's different is that the Dharma will free you. Maybe guitar playing will free you. I saw some looks in the audience like, depends on how you play the guitar, I guess. Patience with our own character quirks. To at least do the style of retreat we do in the Zen tradition is to be confronted with what your heart is, choicelessly. And in some ways miraculously, because you're just sitting there. But something is activated and you're confronted with what your heart is in all its dimensions. Parts of your heart you thought you didn't have but only other people had, and so you could feel good about not having them. You have them, there they are. At least for now. Your capacity for courage, actually. Discover how deep that goes. But we are conditioned human beings. We're not cookie cutter saints. And so, patience with our own character quirks. Once in a while, you meet someone who doesn't need to be patient with their character quirks because they just accept who they are. Some of you remember Captain Dano, who was one of the saints of Great Vow. Dano just fully accepted who he was. And he fully accepted who you were too. So you felt like you walked in his room or sat down next to him and your shoulders just... Sometimes it just happens to people. Sometimes it's age. Sometimes it's finally getting so tired of caring what other people think. That untouchable, invisible thing that ruins so many lives. What other people think. But if we have to practice patience, which most of us do, have to practice patience with our character flaws, again, it's humility. Why shouldn't I be someone who bothers other people? There's a really good thing about living in community. You see that no matter how you practice, no matter how pure you try to be or skillful you try to be, you are someone who bothers somebody else, right? This is good if you look at the example of the Buddha. The Buddha bothered some people. They thought, nah, who are you all holy and mighty? Just, here's some poison mushroom. No matter, because the mind is an open field of creativity, somebody will think of some reason that you're kind of crummy and you're causing them pain. Guaranteed. And actually, we don't quite know where the truth lies. Is my sense of myself more true than the other person's sense of myself? It's actually hard to say. Where does the true perception of who you are reside? Your wife, your daughter, your mailman, your Facebook, your mind? It's hard to say. So patience is like, I don't actually know. I'm going to do my best not to be a butthole. That's required of a practitioner. I don't actually know. So I guess finally, what I want to say is, you are not your impatience. Yeah? This is one of the profound gifts that the Buddhist teachings give to us, is a contemplation that you are not whatever you are aware of. That which arises and passes, how can that be essentially what you are? Why make identity out of what appears? Nobody says, I am my hangnail. How is that different than your impatience, actually? They're both natural, organic things that arrive from having bodies that get impinged on by phenomena, hangnails and impatience. You are not your impatience. Just like you're not your so-called good qualities either. Those aren't you either. That's the good news. No identity is actually something you can rest on. So the Buddha's contemplation was, practitioners, reflect. I am not this. This is not me. This is not mine. Whatever domain. He didn't say also that you can make a new nest in, I am not that. I am not this. This is not mine. It's more like a heat wand that melts the glue of identity. It's not a new place to stand. Do you understand what I mean? The Dharma is not dissociation from your experience. But each thing is just floating in its own space, completely immersed in itself. Thoughts floating in their own space, completely immersed in thought. Feelings floating in their own space, completely immersed in feelings. What does it mean that that is mine? But it's not anyone else's. It is my responsibility. It's my responsibility to have the dam that keeps my stuff from spilling out and making the world harder than it already is. Yeah? So I raise a cup to intimacy with what is. What's in that cup? Cheers. Thank you.